news?
Kevvie Walters
What?
sacked.
What?
No.
Really?
Really?
So it's been reported by Peter Bedell. Peter Bedell has reported and saying the Brisbane Broncos have parted ways with coach Kevvie Walters following a dramatic end to the 2024 season and have paid tribute to the club legend. Wow. It's only 2 minutes ago. That's been broken. Well done,
Yeah.
Rat. Awesome stuff.
Jared, on the text line, he's just sent it in as well. Kevvie Walters been sacked. Jared from Redland Bay. Rabbit Burrow, thank you. I wish you all the best, Rats. Hope the best team wins. Well, that's what we want. We want to see good footy over the weekend, don't we? And I want to see.
Hang on a sec.
Competitive games.
Hang on a sec. The warm-up segment for Ream
Kevvie Walters
is who's warming up for the Broncos job.
Wow.
So Trent Barrett is an assistant. Yeah, and you got Matty Ballin as an assistant.
Matty Ballin. No, you know who they're going to get?
Who?
Josh Hannay.
And you know, a big club like the Brisbane Broncos would usually go in the direction of a coach that has a lot of experience, has had some success. Doesn't have to be premiership success, but a lot of years in the game. But I agree with you, Rat. I think they've probably got to take a different angle now. They've got to take a guy that's got the ability to be there for 10, 15 years.
Josh Hannay.
Yep.
I think Josh Hannay is the man for the job. From all reports, he was very close with Parramatta.
Yep.
He's ready. I mean, he's served his time. He served his apprenticeship. He's ready to take a head coaching role. He'll be missed at the Sharks. They love him down there. He does a great job.
Okay, so
Fitzy.
what do they need, the Broncos? Well, Daddy Vass, you're a fan. What do they need?
Marge.
I like where you're lumping there. I do like Josh Hannay as well, but I really do.
You know the thing, like maybe that like the Josh Hannay thing is going outside the box for the Broncos. You're right. Like they have gone with tried and tested coaches in the past. Maybe they do need something completely different.
That's it. A completely different angle.
Like radical change is what they probably need. You know,
They need something. They need someone stern, like.
Well,
not making mates with the players.
Well, no, you can be mates with the players. You just can't allow the players to control the narrative, and that's what's happening at the Brisbane Broncos, whether you like it or not. They've got some pretty influential figures there that are still very young, Walsh, Carrigan and co, that have a huge influence over the day-to-day operation of the club.
This is left field. This is. I'm surprised.
Will this change the
So am I.
contracts of players?
Well, the coach coming in. They've currently got a handshake deal with Reece Walsh.
Are you saying?
Yeah, so they've got a handshake deal with Reece Walsh.
Yeah.
They've got to re-sign Staggs or Cobbo. That hasn't been decided yet.
Well, they won't be able to sign both of those.
Trindle's coming off contract.
Harry Grant's coming off contract.
Oh man, it's going to be interesting. They're going to have to move pretty quick with November 1 around the corner.
I don't think they would have made it. Maybe they did, but I don't think they're making a decision
without having
without having an idea of where they're going.
We need another hour, boys.
This is you are right. This is way out of left field. Everyone thought that making a grand final last year, an ordinary year this year, that may have got him some time,
give him some grace
for the first half of next year.
Yep,
still in the same position. Follow that Brad Arthur sort of model. What happened at Parramatta? I've got to commend the Brisbane Broncos for having the courage to make a decision of this nature.
Cam makes a good point here. He says, boys, this smells of an unfavourable player feedback in the yearly review.
They just hired the Kiwi Rugby ex-CEO.
Is he in there now? Is he doing that review now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, he's probably delivered his report. And mate, Cam could be right on the money here. Yeah. Cam could be right on the money. Michael says, Kevvie sacked. My head just fell off.
Brad Arthur to the Broncos.
Michael Maguire or David Checker, Canara Cowboy.
Yeah. Plenty to talk about. And guess what? We're about to finish, unfortunately. But this is huge news in the world of rugby league. Let's get to a break here. That was our running hot segment for Ream. We'll get to a break and we're at the shop. Sportsday on a Thursday night, and there's been carnage in the NRL just on the eve of the grand final qualifiers. And if you're just joining in, and we're here for an extra hour because of this news that has been broken, and as a few of our listeners have alluded to, I think it's They're very wise in why this has been released at this time. The sacking of Kevvie Walters at the Brisbane Broncos, effective immediately. He signed a 1-year extension until the end of 2026 after that grand final appearance last year. And the timing is everything when it comes to releasing news of this magnitude to the media and to the community, because
It's smart. Well, it gives it time to die down. They've got 2 games of football coming up.
but they've also
Fox Sport, NRL 360's off the air.
you know what they didn't bank on, but Sportsday going for another
Another
hour.
hour. Here we go. Let's dig right into this, Sats.
So we are trying to reach out to Peter Bedell, who broke this story, along with Travis Main and Brent Reid as well. So if we're successful with that, we'll get them on immediately. But in the meantime, just to go through what's happened over the previous weeks. And there's been a 2-week review conducted by former Waikato CEO, of course, Rugby Union, Waikato Super Rugby CEO Michael Collins. That has been conducted over a 2-week period. We're led to believe the results from that review have been, one, results-based, lack of what you would call advanced staffing around the football operation, the lack of faith about the immediate future, recruitment and lack thereof after the loss of Flegler, Catewell, Farnworth as well, plus, I suppose, many other areas that would be player-based. Now, of course, I also believe there may have been part of this discussion. There would have been. I think this may have gone 2 ways after the review, which revealed that the operation is probably not where they need it to be, based on a number of those issues. Maybe Kevvie's also agreed that it's probably time for himself also.
Yeah, it's a high pressure job, and let's not shy away from the fact either, Sats, that like he's coaching his son in that high pressure job as well.
Yeah, but we've seen that on a number of occasions.
No, I get
yeah.
it. But there's been a lot of pressure on him and his son.
Yep.
And can I tell you, I left Cronulla because my dad was my boss, and I wanted to get my dad back. And he's been under a lot of pressure this year. His son's been under a lot of pressure this year. There's been a lot of calls about, other players being in that hooking position. Maybe, it's just, look, I'm sure he would want to be coaching there, but when the writing's on the wall and, maybe he wants to, maybe it's time, he thinks it's time for him to move on as much as they think it's time for him to move on.
Do you know what, Rad? I think the circuit breaker might have been for Kevvie just emotionally, not physically, not in relation to how he's perceived by his board of directors and his chairman and his football staff. Is that I thought the circuit breaker might have been the way that he responded to a question by Travis Main post game after a loss.
Oh yeah,
where his response was, words to the effect that you seem to know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Where do you think we're going wrong? So, yeah. Welcome back to Sports Day, an extra hour, and for some big news in the world of rugby league, of course. If you're just joining us here on Sports Day, Kevvie Walters has been sacked effective immediately. Great to get the listeners on air. We want you to give us a call on the Suncorp open line, 1300 01 1170, and keep pumping your text messages through. 0457 736 736. We know we've got a lot of passionate fans out there, whether it's in support of Kevvie Walters and whether he should have been given some extra time to right the wrongs of 2024, or we see some Brisbane Broncos fans out there that are passionate about this Brisbane Broncos side getting back to success under a new head coach. We want to hear from you. So again, 1300 01 1170 or the text line 0457 736 736. We've got on the line, we've got Matt from Raceview who's given us a call. How are you, Matt?
Evening, gents. I'm with you, Sats. That press conference when he had a crack at Travis Main, that's pretty much when I lost faith in Kevvie Walters as a coach, because I watched every press conference and they'd been in a very similar vein for about a month before that. But then he just lost and I was like, geez, I actually think he's starting to lose it, as in like not have the answers that we needed.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it, Rat and Matt from Raceview as well. It's really important the emotional intelligence that you've got to have when you're in a senior role like that. Even if you're the CEO of a company or the head of a department or a head coach, when you're confronted with those situations, Matty from Raceview, and it's how you respond to those that either gives you confidence as a fan or a player or a sponsor. I'd be right in saying that, wouldn't I? As a fan, you'd feel the same way.
Well, the Broncos are a big, proud brand.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a look that they would like. The board, the chairman would have looked at that and gone, "Oh, this is not who we are."
Yep. So, Matty, are you a Broncos fan?
Yeah, massive fan. Have been for about 30-odd years. And I just think that the timing is probably right to, maybe have 4 weeks to get a new coach in time for pre-season. But as you keep saying, it's better than doing it halfway through next year like they did with Brad Arthur, and the year was lost for the Eels, really.
Can I ask you, Matty, how you felt as a Broncos fan when you heard the news? Was your first reaction, oh, my God, and then, about time? Or was it, oh, my God, I feel sorry for him, he probably should have been given another chance?
Probably in between that. It was like, oh, my God, they've actually done it. But I respected Kevvie as a coach, what he's done the last 4 years, because he did take us, to the grand final, and we dared to dream last year. But at the same time, I actually do think it's the right time for us to look for a new coach after what we saw for that last 6 or 8 weeks of the season, where they just faded badly, and it just gave us we sort of lost hope.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Joel is texted in, and he makes a very good point here, Sats. He goes, the Broncos have been affected by the South situation. Rabbits were sitting in a similar spot last year and gave Dimitri the start of the season, and we saw how that ended. Instead of letting the boat sink further, the board have made a call, whether rightly or wrongly, is yet to be seen. And I mean, the reality is, if they get halfway through next season, and they're still struggling to find the form that took them to a grand final in 2023.
Yep.
They'd be kicking themselves. If there's an opportunity to move on, clear the decks, clean slate, get away with into a preseason with the new coach. I will say this, though. I mean, they're going to have to move, Sats, because on November 1, there's going to be a lot of players that come off contract, and they're going to need a coach in there, settled in his position, to be able to go after the said players that may fill some voids that the Broncos are going to need to fill.
It is. It's a huge move by the Broncos, and I know the 2-week review is really important. It's and Michael Collins, we don't know a lot about him. Again, former CEO of the Waikato Chiefs in the Super Rugby. So obviously his review has been quite damning, and the evidence that he's been able to uncover, whether it's from staff members, it's the feedback from players, the observations from staff members that may have had trouble with certain players around standards that are not being set by senior players. And I take my hat off to Michael Collins that he's and the Brisbane Broncos board also to have the courage to go and get someone independent and conduct a review of this nature.
Well, because you're not always going to hear like what you hear.
Well, professional sport is about you don't want to. Yeah, exactly right. You don't want to hear the brutal truth sometimes. You just want to gloss over it and show to the rugby league public and your fans that you're trying to do something. But in this case, they got someone independent, and they've come up with a huge decision. Hey, Sats and Rap, what are the chances of the Walker brothers coaching to lure Sam Walker back? Can I say 974? I'm a huge fan of the Walker brothers, and I was fortunate enough to cover all their coaching years at the Ipswich Jets when they won the national championship on NRL Grand Final Day. Revolutionised a lot of the part of the way that rugby league is played, and we see a lot of that being introduced now. But the problem is
they've been out of the game for some time.
They haven't been coaching, and to think that you can go from being a Queensland Cup coach, respectfully, they're very smart men, and I love their view on the game, to go from coaching a Queensland Cup team to be the head coach of one of the most powerful organisations in Australian sport. There's a huge gap in between. Yeah, I'd love them to get back into coaching Queensland Cup again, and I think within 3 years they're head coaches in the NRL.
I think they spend too much time up at the Grand Golf Course, Sats, to be coaching. Crawls, he says, boys, do you really think Kev coached the Broncos to that grand final appearance last year? I don't. I think it was individual brilliance that got him there. Crawls, I'll tell you this. You could put 13 of the best players you've ever seen in your life and have no coach and throw them out on the field. They ain't going to win a game. There needs to be structure and guidance for that team, whether it comes from within the team or the coaching staff. We've seen what's happened this year when that structure's gone and that culture and that feeling's gone. Kevvie definitely coached that team last year. There's no question about it. He put the structures in place. He put the systems in place that allowed the players like Reece Walsh, like Payne Haas, like across the board, Selwyn Cobbos to do their thing, to make the magic that the Broncos showed last year on a football field. You can't just throw 13 people on a field and think, you can all play. Go out there and show me your best.
You got to have a conductor also.
Yeah.
And the conductor last year that what is really befitting of a successful team is having a player on the field that is an extension of the coach.
Yeah.
And Adam Reynolds played a lot of rugby league last year. He was an extension of Kevvie Walters and had a great communication basis with the players as well. And on the back of that, they have a successful season. You fast forward to 2024, Adam Reynolds spends a long time off the field. He's spending a lot of the time in rehab, which means the message from the coach is not getting filtered down through that young playing group at the Brisbane Broncos. And it goes a long way to losing games, not winning games.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of moving parts of this, and a lot of it has to do with, yes, a shortened preseason. Nothing to do about going to Vegas.
No, definitely
but it's about a shortened preseason, and then you've got a younger playing group. You've lost Herbie Farnworth, Thomas Flegler, and also Catewell, and then your marquee signing in Adam Reynolds spends a long time on the sidelines.
Yep.
Communication lines get broken.
Yeah. Well,
that I think has played a huge role in the way that 2024 has played out.
Yeah, Mark from Wollongong says, boys, I rang you a month ago and said Kevvie should be a Hall of Fame, but said he had to go, and I said Josh Hannay will be the coach. Well, there's a lot of calls, boys, who's available? It's time for Josh Hannay. That's from Craig. A lot of people giving Josh Hannay his props, and deservedly so. He'd know a lot of those boys from coaching in his assistant role on the Queensland side.
Yep.
So he'd have the ear of a lot of those boys. I think he'd be very high on the list. Madge, I think would do a wonderful job.
We don't know the situation with Madge and his New South Wales coaching role.
And I don't want this to come across the wrong way. There's a persona that Broncos teams have had over the years: chest out, shoulders back. We're the guys.
Yep.
Sort of thing. I don't know how Madge and that would fit. If you know what I mean.
Well, it depends what sort of attitude they've got towards their rugby league. If they're obsessed by the game, we talk about the obsession in the game. You've got to be obsessed with the game if you want to get a long career and have some success during it, whether it's individual or team career, team-wise. But with Madge, you've got to be completely invested in the game. You've got to be willing to show a great obsession about not only your role but everyone else's role around you. And if you're willing to do that and you're willing to sacrifice and you're willing to pay it forward when it comes to the game and what you're willing to do for your teammates, Madge is your man. If you've got a team that has got a part-time mentality as a playing group and have got other outside interferences, Madge is not your man. He'll crush you.
I wonder how this group of Broncos men are feeling right now, knowing that their coach has just lost their job based on their performances this year.
Well, can I tell you that playing at the Panthers in 2001.
Yep.
We played in 2000. I thought we should have won the comp in 2000. And Roy Simmons is our coach, club legend, much like Kevvie Walters.
Yep.
Had a great season in 2000. We bundled out in straight sets in the final. Should never have happened.
Yep.
Go through to 2001. There's a mutiny formed by a group of players at the club. Roy Simmons, club legend, loses his job exactly the same time as we're talking about right now.
Yep, showing the door.
Yeah, showing the door.
By his beloved club.
Exactly, the club that he's just bled his whole career for. Now, I remember we sat back a few days back and we all went and had some lunch and a few drinks and we spoke about it. And there were some players sitting at that table that were showing emotion and they were upset about the departure of Royce. But they knew deep down in their soul
it was best for the club.
Well, it was best for the club, and sometimes you've got to make some tough decisions if you are part of that review process as a player. But they knew they played a role in Royce going as well, and that's never nice.
No.
Now, there would be some senior players sitting back at the Brisbane Broncos as part of the Brisbane Broncos back at home now. They'd all be texting on their group text, and they'd all be calling each other, and there'd be some there that would realise that their feedback in the review would not be favourable towards Kevvie. And they can probably deny it all they like, but there would be players in the playing group that would have played a role in. And unfortunately, it's what happens in professional sport.
Yeah. Well, Crawls has sort of agreed with you in a sense, and he sort of ripping in me. Structure and guidance came from Reynolds. Surprise, surprise, Reynolds was out for most of the year. Come on, Rat.
Yeah.
Look, I agree, Crawls, that Reynolds, he was a difference maker last year. There's no question about it. But you need... Kevvie was the coach. I'm going to give Kevvie his props. He coached that team to a grand final.
No, everyone plays a major role.
Yeah.
It's never one person.
No.
Yeah.
And look, it's I'm a friend of Kevvie's. I played with Kevvie. Love Kevvie. He's an absolute legend of a human being. It's a sad time for Kevvie Walters right now. I just wonder, with the pressure and the stress you saw on Kevvie, and we revert back to that press conference where he challenged Travis Mayne about his knowledge.
Yeah.
I just wonder if in time he sits back and thinks that maybe after seeing that and looking back over the last month or so, maybe he thinks that in time, not right now probably, that maybe this was the right decision for him to be moved on or move away.
I wonder whether a conversation was had between Carl Morris and Dave Donaghy, the CEO, and Kevvie Walters when they inform him, because he is held in such high esteem at the club. I wonder if there was a discussion like, we'll give you the opportunity to resign. How do you want this to play out? Or do you want us to make the decision? He's so respected, not only in rugby league, but at that club. I wonder whether a discussion of that nature was had.
Well, this is the statement that Carl Morris wrote. We feel deeply for Kev. Broncos chairman Carl Morris said, he will always be a respected guy and a legend of the Broncos and will always be treated that way. Of course, I am shocked. This is a huge job and a pressure job at the Broncos. We have great appreciation for Kevvie's efforts and wish him well. For him to say, of course, I am shocked.
Why is he shocked?
Well, maybe Kevvie did put his hand up. Maybe we're not getting the full picture here.
Yeah, I think there's more to this. I think because Kevvie is held in such high esteem, I think maybe a discussion of that nature, and maybe Kevvie admits that the back end of the season was just way too much. He's a good guy, Kevvie. He's a good guy, Kevvie.
Great
but
fella.
Unfortunately, in professional sport, good guys don't always finish on top.
Just a quick one, boys. Realistically, with that playing group this season, let's say another coach did step in, where realistically could you see the Broncos finishing?
See, it's a good question, Daddy Vass, because you've got young players that have now got another 15, 20, 25, 30 games under their belt from 2023 and 2024. Someone else is going to reap the rewards of this decision. I'll give you another example. John Lang reaped the rewards of Royce Simmons, who graded Trent Waterhouse,
Reece
Wesser, Luke Lewis, Luke Rooney, Shane Rodney, Luke Swain, Steve Turner.
Waterhouse.
The list goes on. Joel Clinton.
Yeah.
He debuted all those players. Unfortunately, his time just ran out. Now, on the night of the 2003 Grand Final post-game press conference, John Lang, who's got great humility and great respect for everything that's gone before him, he said, you know the guy who deserves praise for this? Royce Simmons. He's the guy that put this team
Laid
together.
the foundation.
So it's a really good point you make, Daddy Vass, from a Broncos supporter, because I think there's a coach that's going to reap the rewards of this decision.
Well, Dan says, evening, blokes. As a Broncos fan, I don't know how to feel about the decision to sack Kevvie. If they got a new coach lined up, I'm okay with it. But I don't want there to be a circus surrounding who our coach is going for the whole preseason. I'd love to see the Broncos go after Brad Thorne for head coach. He'd whip the boys into shape. Well, there's one from left field. He hasn't been in league for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll go after Brad Thorne. I think that's too left field.
Wouldn't be a bad assistant coach.
No,
Assistant
all
coach.
right.
Hey, let's get to a break here on the extra edition of Sportsday on a Thursday night. Huge news. Kevvie Walters sacked immediately from his role as the head coach of the Brisbane Broncos. More to come after the break. Stay for an extra edition from till 9 o'clock to cover this breaking news around Kevvie Walters. Now, as this continues to evolve, we spoke about this about 5 or 6 minutes ago before we went to the break, and we touched on this, and I'm glad we did, Rat, because during the break, another release has come out officially from the Brisbane Broncos, and I think we knew we sort of knew that this was possibly going to be some sort of discussion around all the parties involved. And the reason why I say that is that Kevvie Walters steps down as Broncos coach. The head coach, Kevvie Walters, has tonight announced the stepping down from the role after 4 years. Aside from playing here, it's been the greatest thrill and honour of my life to have coached the Broncos. Coaching at all takes a toll, not just on the coach, but also my family. It's time for me to step away and spend some quality time with my loved ones who have supported me all the way through these 4 years. I wish the team and the club all the best. It just goes through statistics and
he's 48 and 48. 48. He's at 50%.
Yep.
That's a pretty solid. Man, there's a lot of coaches with worse records than that are still coaching.
Yeah, the average is around 38 to about 44%. Yes. So he's above average.
He's above average. Look, steps down. I think given the results of this year, I'm just getting more and more feedback, more and more information in regards to Kevvie's tenure at the Broncos. He actually won 50 games, lost 49 overall. Lost 10 of his last 13 though, so that puts a bad taste in your mouth, doesn't it? But they've obviously sat down with him, and Kevvie's just thought, you know what, it's just too much. They've had this review. I could imagine that some parts of this review by this independent auditor, Michael Collins from New Zealand, would have been scathing.
Absolutely.
Would have been scathing. Given what the Broncos expect and given where they are, I think it would have been scathing. I think they've sat down with Kevvie. They've laid all their cards on the table. What do you think? And possibly Kevvie's gone, you know what? I think it's time for me to move on. I want to see this club thrive. I want to see them succeed in the future. And, you know, right now I'm probably not the guy that's going to be able to do that.
I think you're right, Rat. I think they've said to him, we're going to give you the option to go out in your terms. Now, contracted till the end of 2026. If he's gone out on his terms, that means you walk away from a contract. I've got no doubt the Brisbane Broncos would have some sort of release package. It wouldn't be the full amount, but because he stepped away and fallen on his own sword, and I think the club, like I said, I think the club would have given him the option to make that decision, as opposed to the club coming out and saying you are officially terminated to a club legend. So let's get to some more of your text messages, and we want to hear from Broncos fans. We just want to hear from rugby league fans in general. 1300 01 1170. Tell us how you're feeling, your thoughts, whether you agree, you disagree. And also, keep involved in the show, 0457 736 736.
I reckon I counted about 6 or 7 press conferences this year where they said to Kevvie, you know, what are your thoughts here? You know, the boys didn't turn up last week, the week before, and they haven't turned up to now. What's going on? Is there anything going on internally? And his response was, I don't know. We'll have to have a look at it. I don't know. Like, as a head coach, you must know.
Yeah, you must know, but you've also got to have a really strong general manager of rugby league that is your conduit between the board, CEO, and the head coach. And they don't have that. They don't have a strong general manager of rugby league that understands rugby league operations, from salary cap to recruitment to pathways to all those areas, welfare. All those you have to be across those as a general manager of rugby league, and they don't have one. So basically, it's a head coach that's trying to run the entire rugby league department.
Yeah, not going to work.
Something's got to give.
It's too big an operation.
Yeah.
688 on the text line says, I've been saying for months he should be sacked after missing 3 out of 4 finals. Now I feel a bit empty. He's got a little cry face. But then follows up with, come on, seriously, 50% with that roster he's had, other coaches would have been gone long before, potentially. But I wasn't referring to the roster. I was referring to the win rate based upon other coaches. There's a lot of other coaches with a worse winning percentage that have jobs.
Mike really quickly says, before we get to the break, Kevvie's unrealistic and almost irrational "we will make the finals" comments before dropping out of contention showed the pressure was getting to him. Something wasn't right. Well, Mike, that was just him trying to positive reinforcements on the back of the coach whisperer. And although it sounded shallow, you've got to say that and you've got to believe it. You've got to make the players believe that you're behind them and you think they can do it. So I can see what he's trying to do there, as endeared as it is. Let's get to a break here on Sports Day, an extra edition here, an extra hour to discuss the stepping away of the Brisbane Broncos head coach, Kevvie Walters, immediately. Extra edition on the back of the Brisbane Broncos and their reports that Kevvie Walters has resigned. It started out a termination. It's finished up a resignation. And thank you to all your text messages. Scotty from Kalanga, Iron Bronco, all of you, Braden. Unfortunately, we're not going to get to those, but we will quickly get to Michael from Wahroonga, who is on the 1300 01 1170. How are you, Michael?
Very good. It's Wayne, but I'll go with Michael if you want.
Oh, Wayne.
Oh, Wayne. Oh, thanks, Daddy. How you going, Wayne?
Just good, thanks. Kevin was an unbelievable Bronco as a player.
Yeah.
But if you look over the last 30 years, other than Des, I don't think there's been a superstar player who's succeeded as being a week-to-week coach. Now, Bozo, Laurie, Freddie, all did well at State of Origin, but coaching week in, week out, it's a different beast. And the superstars, things come to them naturally. It's a different animal when you're trying to coach a team and develop players. And the best coaches, like the Craig Bellamy's, Wayne Bennett, they're people managers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're setting, like Benji was a superstar as a player, and he's struggling at the moment.
Yep.
Terry Lamb, Paul Lamack, all these guys who are great players never cut it long.
Yeah,
Make a good point.
Great stuff, Wayne.
Thanks,
And
Wayne.
Yep. And that comes with a lot of experience and your personality.
Yeah,
your core
he's
personality.
right.